Hello, and welcome to the Assessment Alchemist, the podcast where we transform the daunting world of assessments into a journey of empowerment and achievement for educators and students alike. I'm Tina Wiles, your guide in this quest to conquer test anxiety and unlock the secrets of effective test preparation. In each episode, we'll mix the perfect blend of expert insights, practical strategies, and inspiring stories, all designed to help you turn test taking into a positive, enriching experience for your students. Whether you're a teacher, a school counselor, or an educational enthusiast, you're in the right place to create alchemy in learning and assessment. So let's dive into today's topic and discover how we could turn educational challenges into opportunities for growth and success. Welcome to the Assessment Alchemist. And I am so excited and grateful for our guest today, Dr. Sherry Kelly. Welcome.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Yes, I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm also a clinical neuropsychologist. So I've spent much of my career doing assessments. So it's great. As a neuropsychologist, I've done well over 1,000 assessments for learning disabilities as well as developmental disabilities. And also behavioral health issues that come up with illnesses, especially in kids, chronic illness. Love the topic of assessments. And in fact, in 2018, my daughter Caitlin and I started Positive Teens workshops and webinars where we talk about a variety of social issues and academic stressors that impact teenagers. We also talk to teachers and parents. At the end, I'll have a little contact information for you.
Oh, wonderful. And I know from when we spoke before, we both have experience as parents actually helping our own children with
Yes.
like anxiety and assessments and that stuff too. So um it's we understand it from all different angles, right?
Yes, of course. I've been there. Yes, had a teenager with extreme test anxiety, and that actually tested me
Yeah.
as a clinician and as a
Yeah.
mom, how to deal with that.
I
Yeah,
get
and
it.
then look at and all of our kids that went through COVID and how that really fueled so much anxiety in students today.
Yeah, and that actually perfectly brings us into the topic
Yeah.
of the yes, the anxiety rates have increased. I've seen studies where it shows that it's maybe even 1 in 5. I think it's probably higher than
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Post COVID, have anxiety issues, so almost double from what it was pre COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
And where you have a very important topic that I know you're an expert on, which is teaching resiliency, right?
Mhm.
In this post pandemic time, right? Which is
Yeah.
crazy that it's 2024 and when COVID happened, all the kids were like, we just get a long spring break, right? Like,
That's what we all
yeah,
thought. How
yeah,
great is
that's what we all thought.
it's
And
gonna
here,
be 2 weeks.
2024, people still are getting COVID, right? Like it's just never going to go away.
Yes.
So I know you have some slides. I'm going to go ahead and share that.
Okay.
Awesome.
So so today I'm gonna talk about how do we encourage and foster resilience in our kids? And, if you're a teacher or administrator, and especially during testing season, or kids are taking their SATs, ACTs, or in some states, their statewide tests, you get back your tests and you feel maybe demoralized, defeated. How do you rally the kids to go back, try again? Or how do we help kids even move forward from a place where they feel little power or little control over their lives? And that's one of the factors that made kids, I believe, feel so anxious during and after COVID is that they lost a lot of perceived self control.
Yeah.
So let's go to the first slide and talk about this. So resilience is a multidimensional factor. Okay, it's not just coping; it's dealing with adversity. It's a capacity for recovery. It's being able to thrive within stress, not just survive. It's tied to self-efficacy, but also it's tied to a sense of agency and perceived control that I can make a difference in my own life. I have power in my life. And a lot of kids today feel powerless, and that's what's causing them to feel less resilient.
Oh,
So as you can see,
absolutely.
resilience transcends coping.
Oh, it does, and this is about, I mean, yes, it applies to testing and testing season, but it's also just daily life, right? And even as
Absolutely.
adults, a lot of the stuff that we feel, right, we feel like we've lost resilience.
Absolutely.
Right.
This is going to resonate with everyone today when we learn about resilience. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a great piece of advice that was given by Jim Henson. And oftentimes we don't know what to say, or parents ask us what to say. And we even forget this with ourselves working with kids. It's really about your attitude. It's more than what you say, it's the attitudes that the kids will pick up on. Your attitude. Do you feel confident? Do you feel confident in them? What are you modeling for them?
Yes. Yeah,
All right.
it's that, like, the I think of, like, the poster that you could get, like, the, affirmation posters up on your wall, like, the "Attitudes are contagious, is yours worth catching," kinda thing, right? Like,
Yes. So that's what I want to share with you. And I tell this to kids in my work. There's only three things in life that you really are in control of. And those three things are your attitude, your preparation, and your effort. It
yes.
spells APE, APE, or it spells P like pea in a pod, PEA. Those are the three things, and they're intertwined.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it takes effort to prepare. You can prepare for a good attitude or a positive attitude, you really can.
Oh, yeah.
And you can prepare how you want to respond. And
I
as
love that. Ape.
teachers, we know we have to prepare for how we respond. We have to prepare every day for the attitude that we bring into the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. And like
I
you said,
I
like
used to be a teacher, so that's how I know this.
yes. And like you said, just even, like, y the feeling that our kids and our students get when
Mhm.
they can see and feel our confidence in them, right,
Yeah.
helps them be more confident,
Yes, and they
right?
need to hear it
Yeah,
because a lot of them do not get this at home.
yeah.
So they need to hear it from you,
Oh,
okay?
so true.
So remember that you can't control other people's feelings, you can't control how other people behave, but you can control your attitude, your preparation, and your effort.
Yes.
And a lot of times, anxiety comes from trying to control things we have no control over, worrying about things we have no control over. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's yeah, it's the future, and yeah, it's the not having the control, which is why that
Absolutely.
resilience is so important, right?
Exactly. So let's run to the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I started to say, resilience is really a matrix of these factors. It's coping, right? It's, using your inner resources that you have. It's also using support resources. You cannot have resilience without having support from others. Resilience is not something that you do on your own, or in a vacuum. That being said, you also need emotional intelligence. So, insight about yourself and what your strengths are, what triggers you, where you feel most vulnerable, and what this is telling you. and then grit, that stick-to-itiveness, wish that were a word, but that stick-to-itiveness, you're not gonna give up,
Yes.
that persistence. And oftentimes that grit demands optimism, that things will be better, and that I do have the power to go on and or maybe the power to see another solution, and not be struck down by obstacles. And then the fourth part of it is making meaning of something, meaning and purpose. So if something disappointing happened, or if we had a crisis in our lives, even COVID, big crisis. Well, what am I going to assign as the meaning and purpose of this? What did I learn from this situation? What did I learn about myself? Okay, does that
Yes.
make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, and as you're going
Mm.
through this, I have the perfect examples going on in my one of my own son's lives today is he goes to college in downtown Chicago, in the Loop, and he found out today there's something going on at the high school he wanted to attend tonight. And it's like, this is the perfect opportunity to take that Metro that you've been afraid of, right? And taking the train out because usually we pick him up. And I basically talked him through all of this, right? Of like, what's the worst case scenario, right? Like,
Mm.
it's all the unknown, and he does have anxiety. And it's really uncomfortable as the caregiver, but whether parent or teacher,
Mm.
of knowing you're doing this, but it's because you wanna make the kids more resilient, like,
Sure.
they need to do it.
Good for you, mom.
Thank you, thank you.
Wow.
I even had
We
to
all
talk
have
my
to be
husband
resilient
from
too.
going to pick him up. He's like, "I can go." I'm like, "No, you can't. He needs to do this."
Well, we question our own resiliency as educators, as parents, um, when we're trying to foster that strength in our own students or our own kids.
Yeah, yeah,
We question ourselves. So let's move forward to the next slide. So, there's something that happens with resilience, which was really um, researched quite heavily by Barbara Fredrickson at the University of North Carolina. And that is this broaden and build theory of resilience, where each time you practice resilience, you get through a tough situation, you learn from it, it grows on itself. It builds on itself. So you keep getting more and more resilient. Okay. So when you're up against something that's tough, when you feel like you failed, when you don't feel like you can bounce back, you ask yourself, is it always this so? Am I incorporating a mindset that's negative? Am I not seeing my own strengths? Am I over conflating how bad this is? Am I catastrophizing it?
yeah,
Catch yourself, and I always tell my students this, catch yourself if you're in that negative mind loop. If you go to that default mode that's negative or self-critical or fixed in mindset, okay? And then try reframing what happened. Try thinking, okay, what did I learn from this?
mhm,
Maybe if you're doing, assessments, okay, what did I learn that I was good at? And what did I learn that I have to discover more about or
right,
fill in those knowledge gaps? What do I have to practice? What are the skills I don't know?
yeah,
Okay. All right. So you think about, if I think differently about my feelings, it's going to change the way I actually feel. So if you change the way you think, it will change the way you feel, and that will change the way you act.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, we talk a lot about mindset and stuff.
Absolutely. So let's go to the next slide. This is a great book. It's called The Shallows, and it's by Nicholas Carr. It's great. It has to do a lot with raising kids and thinking about ourselves in the digital age. thinking about our minds in the digital age. So, can we actually code for positivity? Yes, you can. Okay.
Okay.
So, you do that by thinking about thinking, not just responding or just not reacting. We want our students to be proactive, not reactive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Reactive kids get in trouble. Reactive kids give up. We want kids to be proactive. Okay. So you do that by number one, asking them to think about how they think, asking them to think about their mindset. What are they strong at? What's your destination? Where do you want to go? What's your goal? How do we get there? Maybe it's setting up a backward design
Yeah.
and thinking about, well, I want to be, I want to be an astronaut one day. That's great. So to be an astronaut, let's look backward. So before you're an astronaut, what are you? Are you an, aeronautical engineer? Are you a pilot? Do
Yeah.
you work for NASA? How do you get to do that? What's the step before that? And when you do it in a backwards way, it's actually less overwhelming, and the
Yeah.
kids see each step.
It's very empowering.
It is,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next slide. So I came up with this shooting par, and
Ah,
that stands for prepare, accommodate, and reframe. So I came up with this actually in a crisis situation where I had to pick up my daughter in a very bad crisis. There was a school shooting in our former hometown. I was picking her up at the school she was at next town over,
oh my
and
god.
I had to prepare. So I'm picking my daughter up. How do I do this as a psychologist and a mom? So I prepared for what I was going to ask her. I prepared to have the right attitude that was going to be most effective. I prepared for what she might be wanting to express or maybe not wanting to talk at all. And then when I got her in the car, I accommodated for her feelings in that present moment. I accommodated what I was going to say to reach the goal I had. My goal or destination was to make her feel embraced by love and security,
Yeah.
um, and to feel safe. So I prepared and I accommodated for my words, my reactions to be ones that will make her feel most secure and safe in that moment. And then when it was done, I reframed it, reframing cognitively. You handled this really well to my teen.
Yeah.
You thought a lot about this. There's a lot of feelings that are complex that you're managing right now, and you're doing a really great job. And you also are really great about telling me what you needed. So give that cognitive reframing instead of it being a horrible situation, a violent situation, to how you handled it well. And when you think about those times when we have to have a tough meeting with a kid, tough meeting with parents, we can prepare for that because that's something in our control, right?
Right.
And then we figure out, how am I going to pivot in the middle of that meeting if things are difficult? How am I going to de-escalate it? And then prepare to use those tools once we're in the middle of it. And then afterwards, cognitively reframe what we need to say to those kids or those parents that we're meeting with. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense, and I can see how it goes back to being resilient, especially that reframing, right? That
Yes,
you've been through
exactly.
the hard thing, yeah, and
Yes,
building that
exactly.
foundation, yeah,
So should we move to the next slide?
absolutely. Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. So we connect with what's really important inside. And I'm sorry that the slide didn't come out well, but we connect with what's really important inside. Okay. And if you can just find just one pebble of positivity that your kids can latch onto, one little spark of positivity, they're going to see a mountain of opportunities. And that's what this photo represents. Just one shift of
Yeah.
what's possible. And with this, helping them to find choices,
Yeah.
options. I always tell kids in crisis or kids that don't feel resilient, if you find or you see a choice, you'll have a chance. So what are some other choices you have? There's not just one way to go to this college or to become an artist or become a lawyer. There's many options. There's many options to pay for college. There's many options to go to college if you don't feel like you've got the power right now to be in the place you want to be.
Yeah.
Help them see choices because if they see the choices, they'll see chances. Okay, so I think the next slide's the last slide. I'm not sure. Oh, here it is. So here's the big takeaway. Remember that when you're working with teens, and especially your own kids, your teen years are not going to last forever. But the lessons that you teach your students and your kids will last a lifetime.
Oh,
So think about
yes.
what you're teaching them. And it's going to teach them resiliency. That's one of the things that we do as educators and parents. All right.
Yeah.
So I
And
think the next slide might be my contact. We can talk. And I'll take any questions you might have, Tina.
no, so there's your contact information here,
Yes.
and I'll make sure that gets in the show notes as well. That'll be up on the website. And I think like just let me go back to this slide. When you're talking about the lessons that you teach last a lifetime, I think that's why a lot of educators go into education, right? That it's not the math or the science or the grammar
Yeah.
that I'm teaching, it's the people that right, like the people that
Yes.
come out of it. And so I think the I can stop sharing this. um excuse me. Um, so I think that being able to give educators tools of what to do to teach that resiliency. Obviously, I know the math is important and the right, like all the subjects.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but that teaching resiliency is life changing.
It
So
is.
yeah. So
It's
if
needed.
and you said you've been in the classroom. Is there something that you'd be able to share with a teacher of like some little thing that they could do in their classroom, or maybe it's something they say, or like a video even they show or something that that you think would help them with the teaching the resiliency? I mean, I know it's not a you show a video and you taught it kind of thing, but
Well, if you contact me, I have some videos to share
okay.
with you
Oh,
on,
perfect.
Positive Teens videos on, teaching teens in a digital world. There's some marked differences between when we grew up and how our students are living high school right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And our kids are living in a VUCA world. VUCA stands for VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Yeah.
And the future's coming faster at our kids than we ever experienced. So I think it's super important to discuss with our students, well, what does that mean in
Yeah.
our to our lives? That yes, prepare for living in a world that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
Yeah. And
And
all
that
being documented everywhere you go.
in, in the palm of your hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, on the iPhone, but they're going to be living in a world where when they are working as adults, let's say in 20 years from now, more than 50% of their working and personal life will be interacting with AI.
Wow.
So are you preparing them for that?
Yeah.
And in terms of, teaching them on, I taught A push, which is everyone's
Yeah.
favorite subject, right? I
AP US
always
history.
AP US history. I always made it really personal, with the content and the men and women we were studying in history, so I always pulled it in. Well, what made FDR so resilient, as someone who was struck with polio as an
Yeah,
adult and lived during the Depression and I mean, guided this nation during the Depression and into a world war. What made him so resilient and so charming um, during a time that was so full of crisis and itself volatile?
yeah,
Um, and you think about, well, what made Martin Luther King so resilient after everything he went through?
yeah, all the adversity.
Traumas. The
Yeah,
traumas he went through. And so
yeah.
when you make it personally and you teach life lessons along with the history, I think it gives the students so much more to hang on to. Those life lessons that will really carry them through past the course and into their adulthood.
Oh, that's a fantastic way to put it. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Why like, whatever topic it is, right? Like, seeing how the
Whatever
resilience.
topic it is,
Yeah,
I had a conversation with a physics teacher, um, who had a hard time, relating content to teens in the COVID and post-COVID era, and I said, "Well, it just so much about basic physics is about balance,
yeah.
okay? So much of what you teach is about balance, finding a balance, right?" And this is something that students need to know about life, about
Yeah.
how life works, whether it's from a standpoint of studying physics to a molecular level. It's about finding balance and what this means to them. So, this is another way that conceptually kids can understand the world around them and the world within them.
Oh my gosh. You're speaking pure genius. Yeah,
It's common
yes.
sense, right? As teachers, we all know this. So I'm
Yes.
preaching to the choir, right? Yeah.
But sometimes when you're in the weeds and you're trying to I mean, right? You had the A push stuff, right? Like, you're trying to, like you have admin and you have all the things going on, right? Sometimes when you're in the weeds, it's sometimes hard to think of that, "Oh, yeah, here's
Yeah.
a quick
So,
lesson about resilience."
when I was, at that point of having to deal with admin issues, um, I always tried to focus us and ground us and what's our destination?
Yeah.
What's our goal here? What's the destination we have for the kids? What's our goal? And it's more than getting 4s and 5s on an AP test, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, when we focused on the destination, we could maneuver around any obstacle.
Yes. I love it.
Oh.
Another great quote. Well, I am super excited to, direct people to positive teens, right? Is that what
Positivities, and you can look
positivity.
at yeah, we'll take positivities.com and mind and heart coaching .com, and my phone number is, on the slide you're gonna put up.
Yep.
Would love to hear from you. We do, workshops, we offer free and low-cost workshops to, schools and community groups. So please get in touch with me. I love working with schools and love working with kids. And
Well,
we have some global seminars. We have a global teen seminar coming up in April where
okay.
we're going to have do this every year. We have kids around the world come together and talk about the most pressing issues that they're dealing with. So I will let you know when that date is and you can share it, Tina.
Oh, please, I would love to share it all over my social medias.
Oh,
Um,
great.
Thank you again so much for taking the time to meet
It's
with
been
us
great.
today and, share the amazing information about resiliency. I know I picked up stuff that I could it was a good reminder for me.
Thank you. I am so glad that you're doing what you're doing because you're helping kids to be more resilient.
True, true. Thank you. Yes, we're trying. We're all trying, right?
We are. We are. Thanks so much. It's been great being with you.
Thanks.